I remember when this game was announced, not long after Telltale's Walking Dead game. At first, I figured it'd probably turn out good. I mean, it is Activision publishing the game after all, and when was the last time they turned out crap? And that is where I made my first mistake. One mistake most hardcore gamers make is overhyping a game and setting their expectations high. In the end, that doesn't benefit anyone, and it'll most likely leave you somewhat disappointed in the final product, no matter how good it is. My first advice to you gamers, don't do that. My second piece of advice is not to let all these jaded reviewers turn you off to this game. It seems that all these overly critical reviewers couldn't seem to enjoy this game because what they wanted was simply perfection. It seems every game has to be a AAA budget release nowadays, with amazing graphics, a great story, stellar voice acting, blah blah blah. I can go on and on. But I'm sorry, not really. I don't look for perfection in my games anymore. What I look for is the most important thing in a game, and that is fun. And that is what I had from beginning to end with this game. Fun! Isn't that why we play games in the first place? For God's sakes, man. So, the story's premise is basically a prequel to the events of AMC's TV series. You play the role of Daryl Dixon. Now, wait a minute. Come on. Daryl frickin' Dixon. He is like the most badass character on the show. Next to Dale, of course. And don't forget Herschel. But back to Daryl. You're tasked with finding your big bro Merle while making your way to a safe haven in Atlanta. And we all know how that turned out. But I just love how the game starts off too, just like an episode of The Walking Dead. Check this out.
Sorry, brother.
And I feel that this game is definitely going to appeal to fans of the TV series more than anyone. Obviously. As you make your way through the game, you're pretty much on the road, making stops at marked locations, meeting survivors, finding necessary items to further the story. One of my favorite missions has you luring walkers into a church while setting off a bunch of fireworks inside, while another leaves you in a dark abandoned hospital, pretty much looking for Merle's meds. For the most part, the main missions are varied enough to keep you interested, which is always cool in my book, not to mention the optional side quests you might come across. There are also multiple paths you can choose on the way to the end of the game, and that adds some replay value. Sometimes you will have to make pit stops though, in unmarked locations to gather supplies such as fuel, maybe move some cars out of the way, or drive around them if you want, or find a new car battery. What I like about this aspect is that it gives you options on how to progress. You can take the highway, which increases your chance of breaking down, but consumes less fuel. You won't find as many supplies. While taking the back roads consumes the most fuel, but you have a lesser chance of breaking down and a higher chance of finding supplies, or you can always take the streets, which is a good balance between both. My only gripe with this is sometimes you may come across the same place more than once, so those unmarked locations can get a bit repetitive sometimes. But the item placements were changed up though, and the main story locations were pretty varied from morning, midday, and night levels. Try not to piss your pants in the night levels though. I know I did. As you play through the game though, you get a great sense that you're in the same universe as the TV series. You be scavenging for medical supplies, ammo, better weapons, fuel, and I loved this. It gave the great feeling of desperation as I investigated every room I could for anything that could help me survive. And that is something everyone else seems to be missing the point with this game. I felt like it was a true survival horror game, and we don't get many of those anymore, do we? Finding survivors is also something you should look out for. Before each mission, you can equip the survivors who tag along and give them a task, whether it be finding food, ammo, or fuel. Each survivor has their own traits, so one could kick ass with a shotgun while the others prefer to take down walkers through blunt force trauma. So I gave the bastard my trusty sledgehammer, and I gave the girl who preferred my trusty double-barreled shotty though, well, I gave her a steel pipe, and she never made it back. But it's a really cool gameplay element and it added to the game's immersion. Keeping the survivors alive till the end even has its perks, or relics as the game puts it, which become available for your second playthrough. One can involve starting the game off with Daryl's crossbow while the other allows silencers on guns. That's always helpful. The combat in the game works well enough. You have a defensive shove that's good for knocking walkers back when they get too close, and your standard quick attack or hold down the attack button for a more significant attack. Learning to use the shove, quick, and heavy attacks while positioning is key and adds some strategy to the combat, and I enjoyed it throughout. Nothing's more satisfying than lobbing the head of a walker with a fire axe. Speaking of satisfying, remember when Daryl saved T-Dog's ass on the highway by stabbing a walker in the back of the head? Well, you can do that in the game as well, and it's fun as hell. You'll also find different types of guns scattered through the game, and you can aim down the sights and they all feel pretty satisfying to use. I loved lining up walkers and getting them both with a well-placed headshot from a rifle. Here's the kicker though, using guns in this game is extremely risky, just like in the show. The walkers can hear gunshots and if you get reckless, they will swarm you. I remember finding a bunch of walkers trapped behind a gate and decided to have fun with the ammo I saved up and pop some skulls. Before I knew it, I was getting attacked from behind. I had attracted a group of them across the hall thanks to my reckless noise pollution. What a dumbass. And when they swarm you, by the way, you'll have to fight them off by lining up the crosshairs and nailing them in the head with your knife. It's kind of like a mini game. I loved how this game gives you a choice. To be either stealthy, take down walkers silently one by one, luring them away from the others, or going and swinging your weapons of choice, or firing off rounds like they're going out of style. The choice is yours, and I appreciate that in this game. Of course, all bets are off once you get Daryl's signature crossbow. My gripe here with the gameplay is that I feel that the inventory system could have been better. Maybe using a wheel like in other modern shooters, instead here you have to cycle pressing one button to get to the weapon of choice. And this can be a trouble if you have a lot of weapons and just want the right one when a horde is about to come after you. I guess the upside is that it adds to the tension in the game. Of course, if this always becomes a problem, you can always just press the back or the select button, and then it opens up your inventory and you can just equip the weapon from there. But that kinda also ruins the pacing. Minor gripe. Another gripe could also be the checkpoint system. While generally pretty forgiving, if you plan to stop midway through a level and turn off your console to say go eat dinner or something, you're gonna have to pick up at the very beginning of the level you were probably halfway done with, so keep that in mind. Now, the zombies, or walkers, biters, eaters, geeks, or whatever you want to call them, reacted how I'd imagine they react. From a distance, you're being stealthy, they mostly won't notice you as food, but stand up, run, or get too close and they'll come after you. And I don't mean bum rushing you, screaming at the top of their decaying lungs like in Dead Island or Left 4 Dead. I mean, they'll come after you, like they do in the show. Not too slow, but not too fast either. I don't understand why these big name reviewers expected these zombies to be graduates from Yale. The walkers in the game are only supposed to know and care about one thing, and that is their subconscious survival instinct to feed, just like they do in the show. And what's really cool is how you can use bottles and flares to get their attention away from you. Also keep in mind to close the doors behind you. Don't wait around too long when you do, because if it's a wooden door, they'll break through it. The sound effects in the game are great. Everything sounds as you'd expect. The walkers sound creepy and gross. The music's pretty good as well. The music also rises in tension whenever a walker spots you and starts to come after you. I like that. The music is creepy and moody, and I felt that it added to the immersion. Voice acting is actually pretty solid too. Of course, Norman Reedus and Michael Rooker take center stage here.
And then I commenced to send them soldiers a-packing. I rang the alarms, calling in the abomination.
Man, there's no soldiers down there. There's some scavengers trying to help people out. Doesn't even know who you are.
But the other NPCs sound convincing enough. Now the graphics is definitely worthy of mention because so many reviewers and people who didn't even play the game wrote this game off because of the graphics. Sure, the graphics aren't going to melt your eyes, but I felt that they were good enough. And this is coming from an ex-graphic whore, mind you. Let me tell you, the game's graphics do a good enough job of immersing you into the same universe as the TV series. Sure, you may have a blurry texture on some of the debris here and there, a graphical glitch with shadows or clipping issues, but let's cut the BS here. What game doesn't have these issues? Sure, I can see the gripe with the walkers' dead bodies disappearing after a while, but the same thing happens in Bioshock Infinite. I didn't see anyone complaining about it there. My gripe here is that some more variety when it came to the walkers would have been nice, but it's not something I'd hang the developers for. And the frame rate is pretty solid as well. In the end, I probably spent around 6 to 8 hours on my first playthrough. It's hard to tell because the game didn't keep track of my time, but I got my money's worth from this game. The game made me jump more times than Resident Evil 6 did, and it's a true survival horror game that I've been missing for a long time now. I feel Terminal Reality did a good job on what they set out to do. So, if you want to listen to all those jaded reviewers that have ungodly expectations and write this game off without giving it a chance, just like they did, then you probably have the mentality of a zombie anyways. But in all seriousness, definitely give this game a chance, especially if you're a fan of the TV series. I can only hope you enjoyed as much as I did, but if you're on a budget, I'd say at least try it before you buy it. And if you want a second opinion, definitely check out Escape to Gaming's excellent review for the game, or Archangel Nexus' impressions on the game. Those two definitely helped me decide to get the game, and I don't regret it one bit. I hope you all enjoyed my review on this underrated game, and found it helpful. If you did, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Solid as Godzilla, spacing out.